I was hopeful for third parties because we could talk about things like the $35 trillion national debt. And what concisely are we going to do about that as a nation? That translates to half of every dollar we collect in income tax being spent on the interest on the debt, not paying down the debt, just the interest of it. Imagine if you personally lived a life like that, where you spent half of your paycheck paying your credit card interest payments, not even the principal. Imagine that. Imagine how catastrophic and damaging that would be. Could you ever climb out of that hole? And that's where we're at as a nation. And both parties are moving us towards a $50 to $75 trillion national debt within the next 10 years.
In June, the Congressional Budget Office, a nonpartisan watchdog, released an update to its budget and economic outlook for 2024 to 2034. The report highlights a concerning rise in the nation's federal deficit, which is projected to reach $1.9 trillion this fiscal year and continue growing until the total debt hits $50.7 trillion by 2034. According to the CBO, deficits over this period will total $24 trillion, about 70% larger than the historical average of the past 50 years when measured against economic output. The CBO's report forecasts significant increases in the budget deficit over the next decade, driven by rising interest costs and increased spending on programs like Medicare and Social Security. Federal outlays are expected to rise from 24.2% of GDP in 2024 to 24.9% of GDP by 2034. This increase is largely attributed to the aging population and escalating federal healthcare costs per beneficiary. Federal debt held by the public is projected to climb from 99% of GDP in 2024 to 122% in 2034, surpassing historical peaks and continuing to rise. In a recent video on his official YouTube channel, Charles Hoskinson, founder of the Cardano blockchain platform and co-founder of Input-Output Global, expressed concern over the political landscape. He argued that current political distractions are diverting attention from critical issues such as the CBO's alarming projections of over $50 trillion in U.S. national debt by 2034.
Stop. You don't have time. Don't miss out this 2025 bull run. Educate yourself first ahead of the crowd. We have created the ultimate step-by-step crypto cheat guide that will guide you this bull run. Unlock the secrets of crypto and make smarter investments today. Now by clicking on the link below to get your exclusive copy just under $10.
The point of this video is that according to news reports, it's very likely that the candidate I chose to back, RFK, is going to drop out of the race on Friday and endorse Donald Trump. And there's a natural question that people ask when that happens. Do people fall in line and create a unity government? And even though you hold your nose, maybe you endorse the guy at the top. And I get asked a lot about this. And I was actually recently in an interview with Sin City Crypto. And they asked me, and also other people, for example, when I'm on Gokhstein's show, he's a Trump supporter, asked me about it as well. And says, come on, you got to endorse the orange man. And my broader point was that the system is badly damaged, and it's a bipartisan duopoly that operates on the concept of lesser of two evils. It is absolutely extraordinary how much we're willing to excuse in people because we don't want to let the other side win. The Democrats claim to be a party of democracy, that they believe everybody's voice and vote should count. Numerous third-party candidates, RFK included, have been directly by the DNC targeted to prevent them from appearing on the ballot. They took the time to collect the tens of thousands of signatures, hire the lawyers, file the paperwork, and any technicality, any issue, even if it doesn't actually exist, they're going to sue you over it, prevent you from getting on the ballot because of the risk of taking votes away from them. That's not democracy. When one weaponizes the legal system to attack their political opponents, it's not democracy. We've endured 4 years of lawfare against the cryptocurrency industry. And people on Team Blue seem to excuse it and say, well, Trump did some stuff. No, Choke Point 2.0 was a unique phenomena of Biden, as is the SEC going after nearly every American exchange and most of the layer 1 protocols in some way or another. We do not live in an age of clarity, and when we've asked for it, including legislation that was common sense, bipartisan, and sensible, it was either vetoed or killed in committee because of this current administration. And yet we're told that somehow they're going to be pro-crypto, but apparently the party that believes in democracy, which threatened to remove the sitting president using the 25th Amendment, the party that believes in democracy, which picked their candidate with no votes or democratic process that was allowed, tells us that this candidate's policies, we're just going to have to wait until after she's been elected to know what they are. There's no accountability there, and there's no apology there. It's a crooked and broken thing. And saying, well, we really hate the orange guy, so that's an excuse to vote for that and hold your nose, or somehow this will preserve and protect the institutions and the integrity of the United States of America. What are we protecting exactly? The debates were really important to me because when we had third parties, for the first time ever, we could talk about new things, not which bathroom you use or which particular ethnic group seems to think that they're going to get screwed this election cycle, or poor versus rich and all of this nonsense and noise. By the way, there were people at the DNC bragging about being billionaires as well, including the governor of Illinois. We had Oprah tell us how evil and unfair America is and how systemically racist it is and all the challenges she felt when she's worth $2.7 billion. Only in America could a person like Oprah accumulate that wealth. Didn't happen in Europe, never has, never will. Didn't happen in Asia, never has, never will. Only here. I don't fundamentally believe this nation is unfair and evil and systemically problematic, and everybody judges each other differently based upon the color of their skin. It's a regressive and damaging and horrible philosophy.
In an earlier report released in February 2024, the CBO had projected that the deficit would decrease to $1.5 trillion for the year. However, the June update revealed a 27% increase, or an additional $0.4 trillion, in the deficit compared to previous estimates. This significant rise can be attributed to several factors: a $145 billion increase in projected student loan outlays, largely due to revisions by the Biden administration to the estimated subsidy costs and a proposed rule reducing borrower balances, a $70 billion increase in projected outlays for deposit insurance, as the FDIC is recovering payments from bank failures more slowly than expected, a $60 billion increase from new legislation, and a final $50 billion increase for Medicaid. Despite these concerning projections, several prominent economists and financial experts believe that the CBO's estimates do not account for potential economic downturns, such as recessions. When factoring in these possibilities, they estimate that the nation's debt could easily exceed $75 trillion by 2034. In his recent video, Hoskinson also addresses other issues, including Vice President Kamala Harris's latest campaign promise of a federal ban on price gouging if she is elected president. According to her campaign, price gouging will be a central focus of her economic agenda, aiming to tackle excessive prices and corporate profits, especially in the grocery sector. Let's return to the video for more insights.
The Republicans are no better. You know, the Republican Party used to stand for things and care about things. It used to say integrity matters, your word matters, decency matters. It used to say things like, let's have sound money. Let's have things like a humble foreign policy. Let's have things like a limited government. This was best expressed in people like Ron Paul, who I supported back in 2007 and again in 2011 when he ran for president, through the Campaign for Liberty as a volunteer and the Audit the Fed initiative. And there was pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty direct. And I fought for that. I was hopeful for third parties because we could talk about things like the $35 trillion national debt. And what concisely are we going to do about that as a nation? That translates to half of every dollar we collect in income tax being spent on the interest on the debt, not paying down the debt, just the interest of it. Imagine if you personally lived a life like that, where you spent half of your paycheck paying your credit card interest payments, not even the principal. Imagine that. Imagine how catastrophic and damaging that would be. Could you ever climb out of that hole? And that's where we're at as a nation. And both parties are moving us towards a $50 to $75 trillion national debt within the next 10 years, which will translate to 100% of every dollar we collect in taxation going to the interest on the debt. Apparently, Kamala Harris supports a wealth tax, as well as a tax on unrealized capital gains. And it's excused by saying, well, rich people will pay it, so it's okay. I don't think people fully understand or appreciate what that translates to. What that means is the government will then have a legal right to know every single thing you own, and every single year have accountants figure out if those things are more or less valuable. And if they're more valuable, despite the fact that you haven't realized any of it, you will be sent a bill. And if you can't pay that bill, you will be forced to liquidate the things that you own. In many cases, are illiquid. And what if you disagree at the government's assessment of the valuation of the paintings on your wall, the real estate you own, the private businesses which have no liquidity? Well, you'll be in tax court for 5 to 10 years. And when the government loses, you don't get the legal fees back. This is so far away from any semblance of liberty and freedom. This is so far away from what we started as Americans. It's wrong. And I don't care if it's for people over $100 million of net wealth. That's how it starts, just like how the income tax started in 1913, where the highest bracket was 7%, and it was only for the millionaires. And we woke up 20 years later with the highest bracket being over 90%. And now each and every one of you has to deal with taxation. That is what these people do. And notice something, not a single discussion about cutting the federal budget. If you cut it by 5% every year, in just 10 years, you could balance the entire federal budget and we'd have a surplus.
In a recent post on social media platform X, Hoskinson shared his political views, praising RFK's speech for addressing uncomfortable truths about media control, corporate influence, and the undemocratic nature of the Democratic Party. Hoskinson noted that RFK's approach involves endorsing Trump in battleground states while remaining on the ballot in states already decided. He pointed out that residents of decided states, like himself, can still vote for Kennedy, while those in battleground states face a binary choice, with Trump being the remaining option. According to Hoskinson, a Trump victory would likely see Kennedy joining his administration, bringing justice for controversial COVID policies and a pro-crypto stance. Hoskinson expressed concern over the bleak alternative of state-sponsored censorship, corporate dominance, the decline of the American cryptocurrency industry, and endless wars. He believes that a presidential election alone cannot fix the U.S. government and advocates for a constitutional convention as a path forward. Nonetheless, he sees potential in a unity government that includes Kennedy, Trump, and other like-minded individuals to mitigate the challenges ahead. Hoskinson emphasized that the upcoming elections in November are a critical juncture for the U.S. and the global economy, especially as rising powers threaten U.S. dominance. He believes that the outcome could significantly impact the future for coming generations. Please share your thoughts and observations on Hoskinson's video in the comments section below. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.